Allegheny Airport information. Echo 13000. Wind 209er at 6. Visibility, tree. Sky condition, few clouds at 600 feet, few clouds at 4,400 feet, few clouds at 12,400 feet. Temperature, 2.10. Altimeter tree, 0.22. Visual runway 1 tree in use. Landing and departing runway 1 tree. DSR, aircraft, say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller, on initial contact, you have Echo.
Ground Airbus Alfa Romeo Foxtrot 87 ready to copy IFR clearance to Washington.
Airbus Alfa Romeo Foxtrot 87 is cleared to Washington Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 1 tree climb and maintain 13,000 feet. Departure frequency is 119er decimal tree 5 squawk 1502.
Airbus Alfa Romeo Foxtrot 87 cleared to Washington Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 1 tree climb and maintain 13,000 feet. Departure on 119er decimal tree 5 squawk 1502.
Airbus Foxtrot 87 readback is correct. Contact ground on 121 decimal 7 when ready to taxi.
Ladies and gentlemen, the following segment of the podcast is presented exclusively by Hillsdale College. Now, in its 175th year, Hillsdale is a truly independent institution where learning is prized and intellectual enthusiasm is valued. Thank you for listening, and my sincere appreciation to Hillsdale for their sponsorship.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post. Deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. At the bottom of the hour, we'll have Kayleigh McEnany. We'll let her speak. I won't be cutting her off like some people do. Also, in the third hour, we'll have Sean Parnell. And we're going to allow him to be on this program because we want to hear what he has to say about a district that all of a sudden flopped and flipped in the middle of the night in western Pennsylvania. But first, I want to talk about a few things here. Not a single state has certified any electors yet, not one. We have states out there where the difference between the candidates is far less than 10%. We have one state where the difference is slightly over 10,000 votes. I believe that's Wisconsin. Another state similar to that, I believe that's Georgia, where there's canvassing going on and where the President of the United States, either automatically or by request, has a right to a recall. And it seems to me the media don't want him to do it. They're saying it's over, no canvassing, no recall votes. Now, he's got lawyers out there who are looking into these situations in each state. They're tracking down individuals who are claiming that things happen to them, and it's extremely difficult. When the Democrat machines in Philadelphia, when the Democrat machines in Detroit, when the Democrat machines in Atlanta and elsewhere don't allow Republicans access to the counting. It's also difficult when they're separating ballots from envelopes. Now, why the media pretend this isn't going on, and now their answer is it's not enough to make a difference. How do they know there's not enough to make a difference? None of them are talking to any of the litigators about any of the evidence that they're finding. And by the way, it's only day 6. It takes time to develop a lawsuit. I listen to these former federal prosecutors and the others. What are they, knuckleheads? They'll take months to develop a case, a tax case, against one person. We're talking about half a dozen to 10 states where there are obstructions in place, making it difficult to gather information. And as I've been posting, and as I explained on my show on Fox, the Democrats have created a situation where they've enshrined the fraud, so it gets incredibly difficult to unravel it. What am I talking about? When the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and the Secretary of State of Pennsylvania, all Democrats making these decisions at the behest of the governor, take away the postal stamp. Why are they doing that? Because they want votes that count that don't meet the deadline and make it impossible to track it back. Why would they say no signatures or no matching signatures? Is it to make sure the vote is an appropriate vote? No, it's to make sure the opposite. So if you don't have dates on envelopes and you don't have signatures on ballots, and then these idiot reporters and hosts, I don't see any widespread fraud here. I really don't see any widespread fraud here. And then we're supposed to pretend the Democrats really want you to count when they don't. It's appalling. Now, as Judge Starr said on my program last night on Fox, and by the way, was also Solicitor General of the United States, in addition to being an independent counsel, but he was an appellate judge. This is a very, very qualified, intelligent man. When he said some of these votes are illegal, he's right. And the media don't want to hear it. And some of the people reporting on this are like 25 years old, 28 years old. They have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know about certifying electors. They don't know about canvassing and recall and recounts and so forth. It is absurd to say the president should now just be a good guy and let it go. The Democrats have spent the last 12 months, and especially the last 6 months, going into one state after another, bringing lawsuits where there are Republican state assemblies to get judges, state judges, and in some cases federal judges, to change the rules. And they succeeded in several states. They're pressuring boards of election to do the same thing. They're succeeding and have in several states. And by the way, they were doing some of this while the early voting was going on. And as I keep saying everywhere I appear, they want earlier and earlier voting and later counting. Why? Because there's less and less safeguards. They're not doing it because they believe in good government. This has been what Nancy Pelosi's trying to put in place for the whole country. They want California. Why do they want earlier and earlier voting and pushing mail-in voting, ladies and gentlemen? Because the best way to make sure a ballot is cast properly is to show up in person, where there are human beings that open these big books to see, okay, are you who you say you are? Do you live where you say you live? Let me see some ID. Okay, there it is. Then you get your ballot, or depending how they do it in your state, you go to the machine, or you go wherever you go, and you vote. There are protections, physical protections in place. You have a judge of election right there to make decisions. You have both parties represented right there in the voting place. You have none of that with a mail-in vote, none of it. And if you take away postal stamps and you take away signatures, you have nothing. Nothing. So the Democrats have been litigating in advance of the 2020 election to take the guardrails down, earlier and earlier voting, later and later counting, because it helps their party. Because members of their party, for reasons only they can explain, members of their party don't like to show up in person. Or fewer of them as a percentage of their party will show up in person. That's just a fact. And so they want to make it as easy as possible and as corrupt as possible. Now, what else? What else these former federal prosecutors don't talk about? When you're sending mail-in ballots to tens of millions of people, based on the election rolls that these states have, it's already a disaster. I know, because I'm associated as chairman of Landmark Legal Foundation, where we have a great president, Pete Hutchison. And I know the lawyers here have been looking at all these states. Under federal law, they're supposed to be updating their rolls. Get rid of the dead people. Look for people who've changed their last names. Maybe they moved across the street. They don't do it. They're not doing it. So when you send out all these millions of ballots, of course there's going to be a significant number of mistakes. And what the press is saying today, and what these former federal prosecutors and others are saying to the Trump administration, prove it. We've created a situation where the Democrats have successfully imposed, even on Republican states, procedures where it makes it almost impossible to show the evidence, and certainly within 6 or 7 days, hey, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Truthfully, it should be going the other way. What do you mean, Mark? It should be the state that has to demonstrate. The election bureaucrats that have to demonstrate. The secretaries of state and the governors that have to demonstrate that the voting system that they've put in place unconstitutionally around the state legislature is bulletproof. It should be on them, not the people on the outside trying to look in, even when they board up the windows. It should be on them. And so, no, I want all these reporters to know, all these hosts to know, all these media corporations to know that 2020 isn't 2016. It's not 2012. It's not 2008. It's not 2004. It's not even 2000. You leftist Democrats You changed the playing field all over the country. You've changed the playing field all over the country. And so now when the media say, we call Joe Biden. Joe Biden gets Georgia okay. He's the president-elect. Now we have orders from all the CEOs and orders from all the broadcast corporations. He's massive. From now on, you're to call Joe Biden the president-elect. I mean, we've been doing that since 1848, after all. Did they have all these lawsuits in 1848? No. Did they have mail-in voting in 1848? No. You had to show up in person. You had to bring your ass and vote. They don't want to talk about 1848. The whole voting system was completely different. I'm not talking about civil liberties and civil rights. I'm talking about procedures. So why are they talking about 1848? This is all propaganda. It's all crap. The President of the United States and his campaign not only has every right to do exactly what they're doing, they must do exactly what they're doing, or we're going to lose your franchise. Because when somebody votes illegally, or if we can't even determine, they've destroyed these systems in these states, these guardrails. If you can't even determine if people are voting properly, well, then you lose your vote. And when Joe Biden and his campaign go around and the media count every vote, they're telling you you're going to lose your vote. They don't say, we need to make sure every vote is legal. They don't say that. Even when they say count every legal vote, they don't mean it. They're not in court joining Republicans, joining the campaign of Donald Trump to say, yeah, we need to find out what took place here. They're opposing them every step of the way, even when it comes to observers. So don't hand me this bull crap. I don't remember the press claiming in 2000 George Bush is the winner. No, wait a minute. George Bush is the president-elect. No, wait a minute. And for 37 days, Gore litigated, particularly in 3 Democrat counties. He went up to the Supreme Court of Florida twice, almost 3 times. He went up to the U.S. Supreme Court twice. And no, I mean, Trump, let's just be honest. The same bastards pushing the Russia collusion hoax day after day are involved in this. And one other thing. If you ever had any doubt that the rioters in the streets, whether they're Black Lives Matter or whomever, weren't a paramilitary wing of the Democrat Party, you shouldn't have any doubts today. All those windows boarded up in Beverly Hills, all those windows boarded up all over the country in Manhattan and so forth, unnecessary. Why? Because the Democrats claim to have won, and the media have announced that Joe Biden is the president-elect. Now, he may be president at some point. I don't know. But isn't it interesting? They won't wait. They don't want to wait. So those of us who believe in the constitutional process, those of us who comprehend the constitutional process, those of us who embrace the Constitution, we're in the right. There's the media once again, full of crap, pushing their agenda. Now, a couple of things in addition. Jake Tapper, you're a slob. You're a pig. You're in the wrong business, buddy. You're in absolutely the wrong business. Now, if we're in a fascistic regime, Jake, you'd be great. You're a great propagandist for your party. But you've showed more than ankle. You've dropped your pants. You're a left-wing Democrat. Everything that comes out of that big, bizarre mouth of yours is partisan. And you're not alone. Your whole network is poisoned. CNN. The Communist News Network. Over at MSNBC, they put some helium or something into this Brian Williams, who should never be on TV anymore. He was a liar, a proven liar. There he is with his big mouth. Really, really quite appalling. I can go right down the line with all the frauds. Some I'm not allowed to mention, but they know who they are. And the media, when they say President-elect Biden, they don't even talk about. But keep in mind, there are challenges, legal challenges. There are canvassing going on. There's potential for recounts. These are razor thin. We're talking about a total of about 100,000 votes over 6 or 7 states. Some of the big states. Meanwhile, has anybody called Joe Biden Hitler? I'm not. I haven't. Has the Trump FBI brought any kind of memo to Joe Biden about maybe the Chinese interfering in the election? Not that I'm aware of. Were there any spies implanted in the Joe Biden campaign by the Trump FBI? Not that I'm aware of. Any FISA warrants that go through the FISA court to investigate through the back door the Biden campaign? Not that I'm aware of. Very different, isn't it, America? This is why these media corporations, many of which are run by leftists, this is why media personalities on TV, columnists writing, you need to understand something. 71 million people voted for Donald Trump. And if they're thinking like I am and they're furious like I am, we're not uniting behind anybody. You showed us the way. The difference is we're not violent. But we're not rolling over for you bastards either. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Hillsdale College serves four purposes: learning, character, faith, and freedom. Education and faith thrive in freedom, and freedom requires educated people and people of good character to preserve it. Hillsdale College has been providing the education needed to preserve free government for over 175 years, not only to its 1,500 undergraduate and graduate students, but nationwide through its free online courses and through its support of classical K-12 charter schools. Hillsdale's Articles of Association, dating way back to 1844, commit to preserving the blessings of civil and religious liberty through the provision of sound learning. The learning includes the Constitution. It includes the laws of nature and nature's God as described in the Declaration of Independence. Hillsdale's motto is pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844, and it will continue to fight to live up to that motto, come what may. Learn more at levinforhillsdale.com, Levin for Hillsdale.com, levinforhillsdale.com. Levinites, I want you to listen very carefully to me. I'm trying to tell you something. I want as many of you as possible to go over to Parler, P-A-R-L-E-R. And I want you to follow at Mark Levin Show. Correct, Rich? It's very, very important, because any more censorship of me by either the other two big tech companies will be leaving them, and then you won't be able to find me. It's also the patriotic thing to do. We say, Congress, what are you going to do about Facebook? What are you going to do about... They're not going to do anything. So we do it in the marketplace. I only have 2.4 million followers at Parler. I want us to get to 3 million as soon as possible. It'll make it easier to do what I need to do. So just remember, these big tech companies, they're gathering your data, they're gathering your personal information, they're selling it, they're making a fortune off you. Well, deny it to them. Please go to Parler, P-A-R-L-E-R, and follow me at Mark Levin Show. It's that simple, at Mark Levin Show. All of you listening and your friends and family, come on over and join me. I'll be right back. Hillsdale College serves four purposes: learning, character, faith, and freedom. Education and faith thrive in freedom, and freedom requires educated people and people of good character to preserve it. Hillsdale College has been providing the education needed to preserve free government for over 175 years, not only to its 1,500 undergraduate and graduate students, but nationwide through its free online courses and through its support of classical K-12 charter schools. Hillsdale's Articles of Association, dating way back to 1844, commit to preserving the blessings of civil and religious liberty through the provision of sound learning. The learning includes the Constitution. It includes the laws of nature and nature's God as described in the Declaration of Independence. Hillsdale's motto is pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844, and it will continue to fight to live up to that motto, come what may. Learn more at levinforhillsdale.com, Levin for Hillsdale.com, levinforhillsdale.com.
The establishment's worst nightmare. Mark Levin. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Kayleigh McEnany has been a fantastic press secretary to the President of the United States. How are you, Kayleigh?
Hey, Mark, doing great. We are hard at work here at the Trump campaign headquarters.
And well, you should be, because the constitutional system, as you know, as a Harvard Law School grad, has to play out regardless of what the press and the Democrats think. I want to ask you a question. Actually, I want to do it this way. You were talking earlier today, and you were cut off. What is it that you were saying, and what is it that you wanted to say? I've got 14 million people listening, and you shouldn't be cut off. Go ahead.
You have an enormous audience, and I actually have exactly verbatim what I was saying here, which is that there is one party in America that opposes voter ID. There is one party that opposes verifying signatures, verifying citizenship, verifying residency, verifying voter eligibility. That party is the Democrat Party. And when you take these positions...
Now, let's stop a second. Now, that's factually accurate. They have brought litigation. They have attacked people who want to put in place these boundaries to ensure that people who are voting are the people who are allowed to vote. So there's no disputing whether people like it or not. That is a fact. Go ahead.
That is a fact. And you don't take these positions because you want an honest election. On the contrary, Mark, you don't oppose an audit of the vote because you want an accurate count. You don't oppose our efforts at transparency because you have nothing to hide. When you take these positions, you are welcoming fraud. You are welcoming illegal voting. That is a fact. That is basic common sense that every American citizen can understand. And that is the posture of today's Democrat Party.
Which, of course, is 100% correct. Why else would they be spending the last year with hundreds of lawsuits trying to change all these safeguards from signatures, signature comparisons, postal marks? I can go on and on and on, which they've been pushing in all these states. Why would a party be pushing those things if that party wasn't trying to set conditions in place that make it possible for them to win even more than in a normal race?
That's exactly right. Why is it that there were 682,479 votes in Philadelphia County and Allegheny County? That's nearly 700,000 votes that were counted with no observers watching. Why are you barring observers from watching the count? What could possibly be your motive? What are you hiding? Allow the observers to have their legal right to watch 700,000 votes be counted. But in these two counties, it was shrouded in darkness, shrouded in secrecy, and you must ask why.
I know of no case in the hundreds that were filed by the Democrats, but I know of no case that's been filed by Republicans to eliminate signatures. I know of no case that's been filed by Republicans to eliminate witnesses on absentee ballots. I know of no case filed by Republicans that are seeking to weaken the safeguards in the electoral system. I can name over 200 cases where the Democrats did this. What is the problem? Are we not allowed to speak the truth and call out the party of fraud?
That's exactly right. And look, Mark, we'll find out what the vote total is, we hope, through this litigation. But look, this is bigger than President Trump. This is bigger than what's going on right now. We are talking about the future of elections in America. When you have Democrat officials, secretaries of state, like the hack Secretary of State in Pennsylvania, who is out there saying, I overturn the will of the legislature, who is constitutionally the voice that speaks when it comes to the time, place, and manner of elections. I will speak instead of them, and I will have a Democrat Supreme Court and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court uphold my opinion because my voice matters more than the Constitution. This is about President Trump, yes, but it's bigger than that. This is about the future of elections in this country, and if we don't fight now, we are succumbing to the mob, the leftist mob, who is trying to take over our elections.
Then we get Kayleigh from reporters, some of whom look like they're about 14 years old. Then we get from reporters who say, first of all, there's multiple arguments in the press. Number one, there's no evidence. Number two, there's not enough evidence. There's not enough evidence to overturn votes. Now, this is an amazing thing since they've enshrined their fraud by making it incredibly difficult. We'll take Pennsylvania as another example. No signature, no postal date necessary. Now, what does that mean? Who the hell knows when these people even voted? Who the hell knows if they're even supposed to? No signature? No postal date? Meanwhile, they're mailing out ballots all over the country to millions and millions of people based on rolls that haven't been cleaned up. People who've moved, people move several times within a 2, 3, 4-year period, perhaps, or they get married, they change their name. And then these ballots, they just keep showing up and showing up. The media don't want to know, Kaylee. They don't want to know, and they don't want to look.
That's exactly right. And when you had Ronna McDaniel read to a press corps that was sitting there watching an affidavit, a sworn, signed affidavit from a woman named Jessie Jacobs, an employee of the city of Detroit for decades, assigned to work in the elections department, who says, I directly observed in the city of Detroit election workers and employees coaching and trying to coach voters to vote for Joe Biden. They did not ask for a driver's license. They did not ask for a photo ID. And I was instructed not to look at any signatures. I was instructed not to compare signatures. And I was improperly instructed to predate absentee ballots. That is read to a press corps whose follow-up question is, where is the evidence of fraud? We just read it.
And by the way, there's going to be much more of that because, unlike these hosts that sit on their fat asses, excuse my French, in Washington and New York, all these networks and cable shows and everything else, I am making calls to the field. They have a lot of evidence of a pattern of massive voter fraud. And that's what you're looking for, a pattern. You're not going to find an email that says, hey, Frank, where are the 125,000 ballots that we printed last night? That doesn't happen. What you're looking at, that's number one. Number two, these states have to demonstrate that they had enough protections in place to ensure that the vote was proper. So it's not just on people looking in the dark trying to find stuff because the states and the Democrat Party are blocking them. It is up to a court to say to a state, all right, we want to see your statistics. We want to know if you segregated these votes, as the Supreme Court has said. But look at all the poison and hostility. Because people say, let's take a few weeks and take, no. He's the President-elect Biden, and Trump is really, he's showing his nature. He's not gracious and on and on and on. This is so appalling. How many interviews have you done?
Oh, many. Hundreds, probably since Election Day.
Okay. Has a single person interviewed you contact a single litigator in the field? I doubt it.
Not to my knowledge. No, absolutely not to my knowledge. They're not interested in that. They're not interested in asking the fundamental questions deserving of the American people.
Well, another question. Did you call Biden Hitler?
No, I've never.
Hold on. Did you call Biden a racist?
Never.
Did you say Biden is mentally ill?
Never.
Well, all these things have been said about our president all over cable TV for day after day, week after week, month after month. And some of these people are guest commentators. They get paid by cable TV or wherever they're located. You got cut off for giving your opinion about the Democrat Party and what they're up to. I'm sorry. I'm just sick and tired of the censorship that's going on here, in my view. It's just absolutely appalling. Let people finish what they have to say and then dispute it. But people shouldn't be treated this way. I've had enough of it. Anything else you'd like to say?
Let me just say one thing. There are real allegations and systemic ones at that, when in fact in Philadelphia County, it is illegal to open a ballot before an election day. You have to have a secrecy envelope in your ballot in order to be counted. We had people, and there are multiple reports of this, contacting voters in Philadelphia, a predominantly Democrat area, saying, hey, we've canceled your ballot. We see you did not submit a secrecy sleeve. Come cure your ballot. Mm-hmm. This was happening in Philadelphia. It's not happening in Republican counties like York and Adams and Perry. This is systemic. It goes to the very heart of our election. When some voters are treated one way, urged to come cast a provisional ballot, and other Republican voters will just throw your ballot out. No effort to cure the process.
Let me underscore your point. What was happening is the Secretary of State was telling Democrat strongholds, if the mail-in ballot would contact those people and have them fix their ballot. In Republican strongholds, they weren't told the same thing. Now, it's interesting for all these experts who are hosts and so forth and reporters. In Bush versus Gore in 2000, they used the Equal Protection Clause, among other things, to end the what Gore was up to. You violate the Equal Protection Clause when your government in the state is fixing certain ballots, contact the person who voted and fix it, and then in other parts of the state, they have no idea what you're doing. That violates the Equal Protection Clause. There's a perfect example, and there's so many more. Now, whether the courts do their job is a whole other thing, and I happen to think, Kayleigh McEnany, that part of all this media stuff and Democrat Party stuff and Biden coming up there like he actually runs something, that this is all intended to put pressure on judges and justices to drop the ball. They must not drop the ball. They must uphold the law. That's my final word to you.
That's exactly right. And let me just underscore your point. Bush v. Gore, quoting directly from that one sentence, having once granted the right to vote on equal terms, the state may not, by later arbitrary and disparate treatment, value one person's vote over that of another. And that is exactly what happened in the state of Pennsylvania.
I'll give you another example of that. Another example of that would be if individuals, I don't care how many there are, could be 3, but if individuals are free to vote after the election, because we don't have a postal stamp and we don't have a signature. And yet all those people who came in person were told, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, that's it. You're not in line. You don't vote. To me, that violates the Equal Protection Clause, too. Because if you're allowing people to, quote-unquote, send in mail-in ballots without signature and without a stamp date, they have no idea when those people voted. So the people who voted in person, we have every idea when they voted. We know when they voted. That, to me, violates the Equal Protection Clause, too.
That's exactly right. And we know the Secretary of State acted in bad faith, telling the Supreme Court she segregated those ballots. She changed her guidance and was rebuked by Justice Alito. So at the end of the day, let's hope our justices and our judges do what they are mandated to do, listen to the Constitution.
It's amazing how this conversation we had is barred in so many places, isn't it?
It's amazing, and all we're doing is reading the text of the Constitution, case law, and asking questions. So you can't ask questions in today's day and age if they behoove the Republican Party and President Donald Trump.
But seriously, your point about the Democrat Party and it's corrupt to its soul. Why were they litigating to eliminate these safeguards? Why were they going around state legislatures to eliminate these safeguards? Why do they call anybody who says, no, leave the safeguards, you're suppressing the vote, you must be a racist? I mean, this is what they say. And then when you point out they're doing this for a reason, they want earlier and earlier votes and later counting. They're doing it because it helps them. They see what they got away with California. That's the truth.
That's the truth. And all while they attempt to delegitimize the 2016 election through impeachment, through a Russia hoax, through a special counsel. You can question the legitimacy of President Donald Trump's election, but never should you ever question why Democrats fight signature verification, voter ID, and all of the various mechanisms they use to prohibit and to enable fraud across this country.
And I bet you haven't heard a single host that you've talked to explain why the Democrats are doing that.
No, other than you, Mark, and a handful of others, it is very few.
No, but so they're not going to embrace reality. Why is the Democrat Party doing those things? Do you think it's because they believe in good government? Do you think it's because they want to get out everybody's vote? Do you think it's because they want to be fair? Of course not. You know, I'm from Philadelphia. Ballot stuffing is the name of the game. Walking around with cash in hand is the name of the game. Mark, can you prove it? Just Google back the last 20 years. I don't have to prove a damn thing. There are men and women in prison. They can prove it. All right, Kayleigh, I want to thank you very much. You're an excellent guest, and you were terrific and are terrific as the press secretary.
Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right, God bless. This is Radio Free America right here on the Mark Levin Show. Radio Free America. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Hillsdale College serves 4 purposes: learning, character, faith, and freedom. Education and faith thrive in freedom, and freedom requires educated people and people of good character to preserve it. Hillsdale College has been providing the education needed to preserve free government for over 175 years, not only to its 1,500 undergraduate and graduate students, but nationwide through its free online courses and through its support of classical K-12 charter schools. Hillsdale's Articles of Association, dating way back to 1844, commit to preserving the blessings of civil and religious liberty through the provision of sound learning. The learning includes the Constitution. It includes the laws of nature and nature's God as described in the Declaration of Independence. Hillsdale's motto is pursuing truth and defending liberty since 1844, and it will continue to fight to live up to that motto, come what may. Learn more at levinforhillsdale.com, Levin for Hillsdale.com, levinforhillsdale.com. Radio Free America, ladies and gentlemen. That's where you are. Almost like pirate radio, you know, Mr. Producer? One day I'm going to explain everything to you, folks. One day I'm going to explain everything to you. I am not taking any S. Trust me. Timing's everything. Now's the time to line this up. Have you ever seen so much hostility toward following the Constitution, ladies and gentlemen? Following state laws? Following federal statutory procedures? Let me explain how it works, since the newsrooms don't explain it. The left doesn't explain it. States need to certify their electors. So there's canvassing where there's close races. In many states, you have a right to a recount if you're under 1% or 0.5%, or there's an automatic recount, and then there are lawsuits, litigation. More now than ever before because of what the Democrats created over the last year. They did this. So the states have to wait. The states literally have to wait on the canvassing if there's any kind of a recount and the resolution of any lawsuits. But the media won't wait. Joe Biden won't wait. Joe Biden's out there today in one of the most repulsive fictional dramas I've ever seen. As his voice rises, and he's reading the teleprompter, basically taking credit for the Pfizer vaccine. He keeps throwing out, follow the science. No, follow the yellow brick road, you idiot. He is an idiot. He's always been an idiot. Give Joe a chance. Did he give Bork a chance? Did he give Clarence Thomas a chance? Give him a chance to do what? Did they give Trump a chance? Listen, I have a long memory, and you should too. I'm not uniting behind recognizing the Palestinians and sending them $500 million. I'm not uniting behind the Iran deal, which he wants to put back in place because Iran wants to have MIRV nukes to shoot at our country. No, I don't think so. I'm not going to unite against a soft, passive approach to communist China, which is on the march. Sorry. I'm not uniting against so-called systematic racism, where they really mean the 71 million people who voted for Donald Trump. That's aimed at you. That's what that's aimed at. No, I'm not going to get behind climate change, which is the greatest power grab over our economy by the federal government in our history. I'm not uniting behind any of that BS. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You're listening to Radio Free America. I'll be right back.
From the Westwood One Podcast Network.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. This is Radio Free America, a pirate broadcast, you might say. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You're damn right I'm going to resist Biden and his policies. God forbid, should this claim of his pre-presidential situation pan out. But we're going to follow the law and the Constitution. I'm not going to follow the outbursts of decision desks and hosts. We've been doing this since 1848. This is much different. The landscape has changed completely. We've got unconstitutional activity. That's my focus all across this country. We have secretaries of state and boards of election, which are bureaucrats, making decisions that the Constitution says the state should make. You haven't seen a single news program that's gone down the list of litigation that the Democrats brought, hundreds of cases that their surrogates brought in the last 12 to 24 months, and even in the last 3 or 4 months, during the course of early voting for this general election. None of them have showed you a chart. None of them have showed you a graph. None of them have even discussed it. Why do we have all these lawsuits? Because the Trump campaign is fighting back. And what did all these Democrat lawsuits do? They tried to peel back the safeguards that we have in our electoral systems in every state. They want to turn it into California. And people who bring this up on TV and radio shouldn't be treated like trash. It is corrupt. It is corrupt. Not every vote, but what this Democrat Party did. And I also notice that despite the fact Joe Biden and his campaign were involved in 60 such lawsuits since August, 60 such lawsuits since August, that's not been reported. It's not discussed. So what did these lawsuits try to do? Eliminate signature requirements, eliminate signature matching, eliminate postal stamp dates, just the top of the eliminate observations during counts. That is a party that doesn't want the safeguards in place. That's a party that wants earlier and earlier mail-in voting, later and later counting. It's corrupt. They've taken the corruption off the streets of Chicago, Philadelphia, Detroit, Atlanta, and they have embraced it as a party, and they're trying to impose it throughout the country. They did it in California, and it took basically 1 or 2 elections to completely change that state, its entire election process. And that's why people are leaving now, because you have one-party rule. And that's what they've done in our cities, because they run the cities. But the Republican areas are not going to be able to hold up against this, because they're going to impose these laws, and then you're going to hear the same thing you hear. Hey, where's the evidence of the fraud? The fraud is the fraud of the abuse of the Constitution and the rule of law, taking the safeguards off. That's the fraud, and they won't report on it. The media will not report on it. It's appalling. They all sound like a bunch of nitwits saying the same damn thing over and over again. They can't think beyond their own propaganda. I have a question for the media. Why did the Democrat Party go into state after state after state with the same agenda to make it incredibly difficult to know if the right people are voting? Why did they do that? Answer me. They can't. Because they move like sheep. It's all groupthink, as I explained in Unfreedom of the Press. It's all groupthink. If you stand out and you challenge it, you're going to cause riots. You're going to cause violence. Can somebody tell me once where the Republicans were rioting in the streets? Just show me once. Show me once where the Republicans were beating police officers over the head with skateboards. Or they were burning stores or doing... Where are all these Republicans? They're nowhere. And we have no riots now? Isn't it amazing how silent Davey Alba, the New York Slimes, is? Or Philly Bump over there, whatever his name is, at Washington Compass. All these big-mouth leftists dressed up as phony journalists. Isn't it amazing they don't take note of the fact that since the media have determined that Joe Biden is the president-elect, there are no riots taking place? None. How can that be? This is why Joe Biden didn't attack them until it looked like the polls in the suburbs were moving away from him. It's why he didn't denounce them. This is why Nancy Pelosi, she denounced the federal law enforcement officers who are trying to protect a federal courthouse in Portland. Remember that? Making Nazi references? She didn't get cut off, by the way. Or how about that clown James Clyburn? Making Nazi references about our federal law enforcement? And there were others. There are others. They call it mostly peaceful. The same media. We have riots. They're calling it mostly peaceful. Do you expect that media to be honest about what's taking place in these election areas? Do you expect them to even care? Do you expect them to even look? Look at this clown, Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper was a Democrat working on the Hill for a left-wing congresswoman. He worked for Handgun Control Inc. Now his fat face is on TV with that stupid, constipated look of his, like he's some kind of journalist. He's a fraud. How about this guy Cooper? Anderson Cooper? What is the point of that show? He's an idiot. And then you watch the psychos. I don't, of course. D. Lemon. They give themselves name like their street. D. Lemon. And then, of course, Fredo Cuomo, as my buddy Chris Plant named him originally. Fredo Cuomo. Who are these fools? Yeah. Yep. Just stand firm, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go through this process whether they like it or not. I'm concerned all this pressure is going to build up, but the U.S. Supreme Court needs to do its job. You understand that, Chief Justice Roberts? Do your damn job. Don't worry about your social scenes. Don't worry about Thomas Friedman and his wife. Yeah, I know they're friendly with them. Don't worry about all that. Do your damn job. Rehnquist did his job in 2000. Now see if you can do your job. But you know what? If we have 5 serious constitutionalists on the Supreme Court of Supreme Court of the United States, they can do the job without Roberts. Roberts can leak to Politico. He can get a write-up in the New York Times or the Washington Post. Yeah. Roberts has gone Hollywood. He's gone Georgetown. It's the way it is. Mr. Kennedy Center. But this is too damn important. The Attorney General has announced minutes ago that he's authorizing the United States attorneys throughout the country to pursue evidence, if they have it, of substantial allegations of voter irregularities. Now, he'll come under attack. He will come under attack by the media and the Democrats because they do not want the feds investigating voter irregularities. You want to know why? Because they own half the DAs around here. Philadelphia, you got a Soros DA. So now the U.S. Attorney in Philadelphia, who's a stand-up guy, now he can get into the game. The U.S. Attorney in all these big cities can get into the game, and they need to. They need to. It is amazing to me, the media and these former federal prosecutors who know nothing about the Constitution, they've learned it on the fly over the last few years. They haven't studied it for decades. How little concern they have about fraud. They say, bring us examples of fraud. I just explained to you what the Democrats succeeded to doing in courts across this country and what Democrat secretaries of state and Democrat legislatures have done to take illegal activity that was illegal one day and to enshrine it as legal the next day. So I would ask these former federal prosecutors and the other, is that a fraud? Are those votes fraudulent? Yeah, what? Well, yeah. It's not going to change. And then I have to watch 25-year-old reporters on TV telling me there's not any evidence that can possibly turn the election around. Really? How do you know that? Well, it hasn't been given to us. It's not going to be given to you. It's going to be used in court, or it's going to be used as a basis for getting recounts, perhaps. I want to move to another subject when we come back, and it's this vaccine. It's Operation Warp Speed, and now the media are doing the very best they can to say, well, it had nothing to do with Operation Warp Speed. I mean, this was going to happen anyway. They are such sleazeballs. It's really unbelievable. Hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars spent by the Trump administration, Operation Warp Speed, to give funding and support to Pfizer and a dozen other pharmaceutical companies to give them the support, the funding they need, the capital they need to press ahead as fast as they can, to blow out the